Welcome everybody to this week's edition of the Commissioner's Address. I'm just going to hop right into it, starting off with my own matchup against Bassett's Brawlers. Fuck! Bassett's Brawlers coming away with the win 145 to 136. Not a very high scoring game on either side, but a couple players showed up for Spencer, and not a whole bunch of players showed up for Mike. So that drops me to 1-3, which really pisses me off because I have the second highest point total of the year. I am 8 points behind Rob for point total, and I'm 1-3, good enough for 10th spot. The 2-2 puts Spencer in 7th spot at the end of week 4. Like I said, he had a couple players show up, namely Lamar Miller and Zeke Elliott, who had 29 points apiece. And that was the difference maker. I had Russell Wilson on my side with 29 points as well. Not a lot of big performances on my side. And my running back shit the bed. Christian McCaffrey, 8.9 points. Against New England, even though Carolina put up like 450 yards against New England for the win, McCaffrey wasn't a large piece of that, so that sucked. He's not good between the tackles. He's a good pass catching back, but he's too small. He doesn't find the holes, and he just gets killed. So, and then Ty Montgomery broke some ribs by all reports, but he's been practicing today with a flak jacket, so he might come back. Who knows? It was a rough game for Atlanta. They lost to Buffalo, which is a big loss for them. Not that Buffalo's a bad team, but if you want to be a Super Bowl team and you want to contend for one of those top spots in your division, you got to beat Buffalo. And they lost 23-17. Matt Ryan with 10.4 points and Julio Jones with 6 points. I know that Jones and Sanu went out during that game, so that does suck. But that's a big loss there. Going on the bench, not a whole bunch. Terrence Williams, so I don't think that's Terrence Williams. T. Williams, who plays for the Chargers. Tyrell Williams. He did have a good game on Spencer's bench with 22 points. Not a whole bunch else going on. Amendola was all right as well because he had a touchdown there, so that gave him 16 points on the bench. Again, I'm in 10th spot at 1-3. Bassett's Brawlers at 2-2. In 7th spot. Moving on to the next matchup. 4th and Lynch's taking on the Capper Goats. This is another close game, actually, of the week. Not a real high-scoring one. Both teams did underperform. 4th and Lynch's do come away with the win. KC moving to 3-1, good enough for 3rd. And Capper Goats dropping to 1-3, good enough for 11th. So if you're 1-3 like me, Capper Goats, we need to do something, because it's going to be a long year if things don't turn around for us. Aaron Rodgers, consistent as always, 23 points. Jordy Nelson, 2 touchdowns. He had 23 points, but he only had 4 catches, so could have been a bigger night. He only had 23 points. Travis Kelce finally showed up, which is nice to see, 24 points. It's been a thin tight end position this year, so frankly, it's nice to see Kelce do something. In my opinion, Zach Ertz has been the best tight end this year because he's consistent. You can put him in every week, and he's going to get you 15 points, it seems. So, Capper Goats did start Geronimo Allison, despite Randall Cobb being completely healthy and playing. So, Geronimo Allison had 0 touches of the ball in Green Bay's win over Chicago. So, that was a big division win for them. Going on to the bench here, nothing really going on. Tevin Coleman did get I believe a touchdown, or at least he ran over a bunch of people, and he had 18 points, so he did pick up a little bit after Julio and Sanu went down. Again, 4th and Lynch is moving into 3rd spot, and Capper Goats taking on the 11th. Then we got the Fear Boners going against Flabby Gooch. Another tight matchup. Flabby Gooch coming away with the win, 146 to 143, a 3-point game. Both teams are 2-2. Shane is in 5th, and Andrew AJ is in 6th. Cam Newton showed up to play, which worked for me because in my other league I had to start Cam and I had to start Ben, and they were both busts of the week, and both of them did have a good week. So that was kind of nice to see. AJ Green, 17 points. Leonard Fournette, 24 in the loss for Shane. On AJ's side, DeAndre Hopkins, he actually has the most targets and the most catches out of any wide receiver this year. Holy Houston. Deshaun Watson is for real by the looks of it. Wendell Smallwood was a good pickup for AJ. It looks like he's picked over, gotten primary duties there in Philadelphia. He had 17.9 points. And the Denver defense had a decent game against Oakland there in their win 16-10. Again, Flabby Gooch in 6th and Fear Boners in 5th place. Looking at the bench here, Duke Johnson had a big game on Shane's bench, 21 points. He's a hard start each week, but he gets the game scripts, right? I mean, Cleveland's always playing from behind, so they're always going to be playing a running back that can catch. And Johnson is their guy. He's made some really good catches this year. He did have 21 points, so he might be worth looking at a start there after DeMarco put up a sad 5.5. Moving on, Jacking Goff versus the Broken Johnsons. Easily the matchup of the week. Both of these teams were 2-1 going into this matchup. Oh, actually, sorry, Rob was 3-0 and Eric was 2-1. We needed someone to slow Rob down, and Broken Johnsons was able to do it, putting up a very, very respectable score of 167.34. And the reason it's so respectable is because he lost David Johnson in the first week. About 167, that's good enough for the win. It was tight. It was real tight. Alex Smith, 27 points in the loss. Mike Evans and Cooper Kupp each had 17. Todd Gurley, the Rams look good. 34 points for Todd Gurley. It just shows how reliant even an elite running back is on their offensive line. He got fuck all done last year, which made him cheap to pick up for Rob this year, and he's got the running back depth all across the board with CJ Anderson there as well. So looking at the bench players, not a lot going on for either team. Cameron Brate for Tampa Bay did have a touchdown and 80 yards on Broken Johnson's side, so that could have improved his score a little bit. Jimmy Graham had 10, which is actually pretty good for a tight end. But I know Russell Wilson and Jimmy Graham just weren't quite jiving. I think one of Wilson's interceptions came from a miscommunicated throw to Jimmy Graham there. So moving forward, we got Jacking Goff in first place and Broken Johnson's in second. So hell of a matchup between you two. Well done. That was fun to watch. Moving on to the lowest scoring affair of the week by a long shot. We've got the waiver wire taking on Rusty Pole. Waiver wire coming away with the win, 125-78. Both of these teams were projected for 131, so waiver wire underperformed slightly, and Rusty Pole did about 60%, 65% of his projection, so it was a rough day. Look at some of the scores on Rusty Pole's side. We got 3.7, 1.7, 3.9, 3.7, 3.3, 2. And those are all from starting players. On the winning side, Eli Manning, basically the only reason that the waiver wire put up much for points, frankly. Jacksonville defense, I guess, did have 27 points against the Jets, despite Jacksonville losing against the Jets, which was a little bit surprising. Looking at the bench here, looking at waiver wire, Andre Ellington, 19.4 points. No one was really sure who was going to replace David Johnson as a lead back, and the consensus was that nobody was going to, and that's true, frankly. But without David Johnson, Arizona is forced to play from behind a lot. They're forced to throw a lot. And again, just like Duke Johnson, you put your running back in there that can catch the ball. And Andre Ellington is that guy. He got 19 points. Terrell Pryor Sr., who has been I think a bust so far this year, more or less. He did get 16 points, so he kind of showed up, but he's not what they were talking about last year with him, and that's one of the reasons I didn't want to draft him anywhere. Will Fuller did have a good night, but Houston did get 57 points, so we'll see what he does in the future. Not a whole bunch going on the bench for Rusty Pole. Did have some okay scores there, but nothing too crazy. Rusty Pole is 2-2. Good enough for 9th. They're a spot ahead of me. And the waiver wire is 3-1. Good enough for 4th spot. Moving on to the blowout of the week. Average JoJo's coming to play. Finally, 185.3 points. A huge week for Justin. Moving Valette's Vengeance to 0-4. And that is tough. 116 points put up by Valette's Vengeance. There's just nothing going on. He does have the Rams kicker, which is good because he had 27 points. And that made up basically a quarter of Jesse's team. So that's tough. On the other side, average JoJo's, Jameis Winston, 26. Lev Bell, 34. Alvin Kamara, 25. Deshaun Watson, 34. Minnesota D had a good game against Detroit, even though they lost, which kind of sucks. And he even had Andy Dalton on the bench with 28, who, I mean, that's a good sit, all things considered. And it worked out for him pretty good. So 185 points for average JoJo's, taking out Valette's Vengeance. Average JoJo's a 2-2 in 8th spot, and Valette's Vengeance, the sole 0-4. He is in 12th spot. Looking now at Shane's power rankings of the week, our top 3 stay the same. We've got Jack and Goff in number 1, Fourth and Lynch is number 2, Fear Boners in number 3. Some teams that jumped up this past week: Broken Johnson's moving to number 4, Flabby Gooch number 5, Average JoJo's in number 6. And then it goes me and all the other guys that fell. And if you look at the far right on the power rank score, that 1.21 for Rob is significantly better than anybody else. So Rob, doing a hell of a job this year. You've got the team to do it. I'm in 10th. Fuck. Moving on to let's look at the standings here quick. Number 1 spot, Jack and Goff, and then the Broken Johnsons, Fourth and Lynch's, and the waiver wire finishing up the 3 and 1s. Fearboner starts off the 2 and 2s at 5th spot, followed by Flabby Gooch, Bassett's Brawlers, Average JoJo's, and Rusty Pole. Then you've got the greatest of all time at 1 and 3 in 10th spot, and Capper Goats in 11th at 1 and 3 as well, and then Valette's Vengeance at 0-4. And you can see that Valette's Vengeance does have the most points against by a large margin, which does suck. I get it. I'm 613 points for. I'm one of 2 teams above 600, and yeah, I'm in 10th spot. So I feel like I need to make a trade to get my shit going, but I really don't. I just need to kind of stay the course and hope for the best. Okay. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. That is the sign for the Superman of the week. Who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? Average JoJo's, you are the Superman of the week. 185 points. Way to come to play. It's been a rough start for you. Le'Veon Bell showed up. I know he missed a lot of preseason, but man, that guy takes a lot of games to get going. Let's look at his week-to-week totals here. Week 1, 7 points. Week 2, 13. Week 3, 21. Okay, that's respectable. Week 4, 34. So if the trend keeps going, he's going to get like 48 points this week against Jacksonville. Don't know if that's going to happen, but he did show up. So that's good. Alvin Kamara had 10 catches, and he is by far the best back in New Orleans. Adrian Peterson just doesn't fit their system. It doesn't work. He doesn't catch passes. They're not a run-first offense, and you need to give him the ball 20 to 30 times a game for him to be effective, and that doesn't work. Frankly, I'd like to see him back in Minnesota. Who knows? Maybe next year. Like I said, Alvin Kamara looks like the lead back there, and Deshaun Watson, 4 passing touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. He was very good. 34 points. Way to go. Way to go. You're a bitch. The bitch of the week. Hands down. With all the tight matchups and all the high-scoring games, the Rusty Pole. Mostly I just hate you right now. And I know you did get married or go on your honeymoon or something. But 78 points. Adam Thielen, 8.9. Robert Woods, 3.7. Mohamed Sanu, 1.7. Melvin Gordon, 3.9. Crowell, 3.7. Man, it was just a rough week for you. 78 total points. What do you have for the season here? For the season... Oh, it's not going to let me figure it out here. For the season, you have 427 points. There is nobody near you for that many points. Capper Goats is 474. That would be the closest. And you are 2-2. I don't know how that happened. But it's good. It's nice to see Rob lose for one. So that's good. It was a good matchup, though. You know what? That one came down to the Monday Nighter. I think everybody was kind of curious to see if Rob was going to lose this year. It's nice to see him come back down to earth. Obviously, he still has the top spot in Shane's rankings there. But we're just going to have to see what we can do.